here in the internet, back in the background there. Here in the internet, we are always the ones to be first to know everything that's coming, that we predicted all of the tech and the magic and the spells and we're right here on the cutting edge, right? And tonight we're going to explain to you how. Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. Okay, we have to start tonight by reading the chat on UATV, and we have from Nibmeister, who is to be celebrated as one of our digital backers for Draco Alchemicus and is loving Act 1. Yes. We're so stoked. That's just that. That's
I'm very happy.
We can stop now. and also,
yeah, I don't need any other feedback.
No, that's it.
We don't need any other feedback.
Meister, you win, right? We can go home now happy because we have a reader. And you all should take his advice and say, yes, this is definitely worth reading. So, for digital backers, those of you who are watching us, in the Mosaic Ark as well. There should have been a message for you about where to find your PDF as promised. Print backers, everyone has been sent the backer survey to send us shipping addresses, and you will be getting your books and cards and pictures and all of those wonderful good things as soon as we can get them to you. I mean, we're up against the Christmas print time now for our printer, so we will get them to you as soon as we possibly can. But the books are beautiful. We've been teasing everyone with a few glimpses of the cover and the interior and such like that. There will be more showings in the next few weeks for sure. But the book is coming out, and if you like it, we'd love to hear from you and send us your in-depth and detailed reviews, and we'll put them in our newsletter for sure. Next week, we have a return guest who helped us with our storytelling marathon back in June when we were finishing up the Kickstarter. Patrick Coffin is going to be back on the Mosaic Ark live next Wednesday evening with some new mind tricks. Right, and we're going to talk more about storytelling and maybe tell you yet more backstory about where all of our poetry work is coming. But tonight, after we mourn the fact that this is the Rooster's last night on camera.
Yeah.
Justice for roosters.
Al Capone is going to be taken to a farm, a very special farm where he can roam around and make as much noise as he wants.
Oh, that's good.
That's good. He's been raving too hard.
He raved too hard for the village. The village has cast him out. He's now a leper, a rooster leper.
Yeah, which is funny because if you know anything about the wildlife in Australia, you know the birds are very loud here, but yeah. People don't like the rooster, so I was very sad. I was handed a notice that I had to get rid of him.
The discrimination against roosters as opposed to, I don't know, I'm still rooting for you to get that parrot. I think we need to
Yeah.
do a GoFundMe for Kilts to get the most expensive and long-lived parrot she can, and we'll test its vocal cords first.
Yeah.
To make it.
Yeah.
And ooh, I mean, this will be
maximum decibels.
This will be your pirate parrot. It should definitely learn some salty
Yes.
salty phrases. I think then they're are they endangered? Are they count as endangered there, or licensed, or traditional fauna? It's like what would some protected category surely for the parrot, so that no matter what it says, your neighbors are stuck with it. we could train it to make rude remarks about the ladies.
Well, yeah, the potential. The options are unlimited there. Could train it to swear in different languages just to keep it interesting, keep it spicy. I've had some great suggestions this morning since I broke the horrible news. Casey said that I should start learning the bagpipes, which is absolutely
another good option
on the cards.
How dare they challenge your culture? Yes, you can play Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. We'll be in good shape, right? Oh, you could play our opening tune on the bagpipes, right? The Herring of Hell that we play.
Yeah. Get some bagpipes and a hurdy-gurdy and just let it rip.
Okay, so this is the news segment of tonight's episode. So the rooster of Alas, we have to like wake the rooster and celebrate him this evening, or your daytime. And be watching your emails for updates about the progress of Draco Alchemicus into the physical world. And Patrick Coffin next week on the show doing more tricks with well, he does have the deck of our cards, right? Our special Draco Alchemicus cards, which those of you who backed us at the dog tier and higher levels will be getting your cards as well. They are beautiful. I love playing with them. And you win at solitaire very frequently with our decks. Okay, so Patrick will be with us next week, and we'll do more storytelling and magic and stuff. But tonight, Pat says now they come for rooster masculinity. Yes, okay. So tonight we are going to prove that we have here in the Mosaic Arc, because of our deep research, all the predictions that anybody's ever going to need. All of them. All of them. It's like here in the world of the internet, you all know that we're all desperately trying to read the patterns and, see how the stories are fitting together and break the spells and all of that. Well, we have the key.
The absolute ultimate key of breaking the internet.
Well, the thing is, it's the secret to the merchants of light. Right, it's like it's even in the some of the main characters in here are 12. There are 12 of them that go into foreign countries under the names of other nations. Ooh, they're spies, right? Who bring us books and abstracts and patterns of experiments of all of their parts, and these are called merchants of light. We have access to the pirates of the internets, the pirates, the actual true pirates, the ships that sail in the light to gather all knowledge and patterns and experiments and truths, and therefore we're smarter than everybody else. Well, sometimes, so the thing is, the problem with seeing too many patterns is everybody thinks you're nuts. So, sitting around declaring yourself, high IQ and highly trained and this and that, it doesn't help if nobody understands what you're talking about. So we're going to try to break it down into a systematic proof that we have the access to all true prophecies. Nibmeister, you're going to kill the rooster and read his entrails.
Oh no.
That is a path we had not considered. Prof, I guess you're telling me is I have to double back as a digital backer. Well, I mean, so this is actually appropriate because we backed up to some of our subsequent volumes, right? And we also are going to have to do a reveal because we actually have a new artist working for us for the next act, and we need to fund her work. It's a she this time. But we did really well on our Kickstarter. We were in the top 25%. I did the calculation because I'm that kind of geek, nerd, whatever, math, right? I did the math on how many Kickstarter Kickstarter, are they called, projects, funded at the different levels and the different categories for what we did and such, and we did so well. We're in the top 25% of Kickstarter projects ever, right, of the things that are backed in the different tiers. Alas, we are a high quality art project and we need more money. So there will be.
The gold digging continues.
The gold digging continues. I mean, we're going to send kilts out into the outback to find where those mines are, right? And
I'll be out there with a bucket and a shovel.
Bucket and a shovel.
2 weeks time.
And I might, I can go back up into the mountains somewhere in Colorado, but they're mining moly there, molybdenum, and I'm not sure that'll help us with our gold digging. So. Yeah, so you guys, buy the book. It will help
You'll keep us out of the mines.
Yes,
please.
It'll keep us out of the mines, and it will. You're gonna love. We love Zay as our opening artist, but our artist for Act 2, you're gonna love. It goes dark in very appropriate ways after Act 1. So, Give us your gold. We'll still be making pleas, but mainly right now, just buy the book. Okay. But what we wanted to do tonight was give you a bit more of the research that we've done in order to bring you the most accurate, predictive love story you're going to encounter anywhere, internet or otherwise, and that we've been working on the research for several years now. There's bibliography and such on the website behind the scenes and such, and this is definitely one of the books that's pointed there. But how is it that our characters, time traveling that they are, going back into the Elizabethan period and forward into the Industrial Revolution and back into the Commedia dell'arte period, Enlightenment, and forward into who knows where they end up, right? How are our characters going to show you the way that the spells are cast? Well, there's a primary source that we have that we want to work through with you tonight that is flat out terrifying in its predictability. Predictability. There you go. It's flat out terrifying in its predictability about the kinds of technology that we are encountering in our life as we speak and are worried about. Now, let's play the reverse on this. How old do you think this book is? Fat, honestly, I knew you'd regret offering a tier for someone to pre-order all 5 books. Not in the least. We regret nothing. But we give us hope. There's readership for the entire story, and then you, being eager to get the rest of it, will tell everybody else about it, and buy the book so that we can all enjoy it. So this is fine. So this terrifyingly accurate prediction about the paths of the merchants of light on the oceans of the world, internal and interior and exterior. How old do we think? How old would you think this book is? 10 years, 50 years, right? 100 years, 100. Usually people, like, I can't get catty because I'm a medievalist, and my goodness, the people who think 100 years ago was a long time ago, they're people still alive. And we're born 100 years ago. It's only a lifetime. It's a long lifetime, yes, but 200 years, I mean, you start getting into the age of the United States and think people, basically unimaginable generations passed from 1776. Not that old, right? It's okay.
Eons of
Time. Maybe the Enlightenment, right? If we had a book that was so old it went back to Voltaire and his Masonic. It was Voltaire Mason. I don't know, right? The enlightened. He was a something. The rationalist, predicting all of their encyclopedia and their technology and such prior to the Industrial Revolution. But yeah, that's several hundred years ago, right? That would be old enough, wouldn't it be?
I feel like this is a trick question.
Maybe older. Maybe.
I would assume, usually because we're always saying, okay, it's 19th century. Like everything seems to land in the 19th century. So like, I think, okay, maybe it is, but maybe it's a trick because this sounds like science fiction. What you're describing,
like that, it could predict the light, the use of light for communication as we are using now, or it could predict, I don't know, towers half a mile high, or genetic hybrids of plants and animals. Yeah, that 19th, 18th, 19th century. Yeah.
Yeah, my gut feeling would be I'd place it around the 19th.
Well, you'd be wrong.
And they were all into the science. I'm wrong.
Maybe.
How old is this?
What?
How old is this?
How old indeed it is. Well, it's got ships in it, right? So we'll say it's period of the high seas, maybe early 18th century when the actual like famous pirates, Robinson Crusoe, and well, he's not a pirate, but Daniel Defoe writes the story of Robinson Crusoe and the pirates, possibly, right? Okay, so maybe early 18th century pirates. Pat says sounds like something is mooing in the background. We've got all the animals today. It's older than that, right? We are going to take you back in our reading today to 1624, in a book that's actually published in 1627. It's written in 1624, right? To someone who's born in the Elizabethan period, 1561, in fact. Survives Elizabeth's reign, which is pretty cool because he's a member of Parliament throughout a lot of that period, and doesn't get his head chopped off or anything.
He ran the gauntlet.
Yeah. survives in fact into James the First's reign. Now, if you are good Protestants, and we're celebrating last week the 5th of November and then the blowing thereof of Parliament, which didn't happen. Our authority tonight was knighted by James the First in 1603. Appointed Attorney General in 1613. Made Lord Chancellor, created Baron Verulam. I'm not sure how to say that. Verulam in 1618. And Viscount St. Albans in 1621, at which point he was impeached for accepting bribes. Whoops. Manages to survive until 1626 when he dies age 55. Okay, so what's interesting is like that is not the career of the person that it sounds like we're going to be meeting tonight. If he's going to have these prophetic, it should be like John Dee, right, reading crystal balls with angels in them and such like this. No. This is a barrister who's a member of Parliament who writes essays on learning and he did publish an advertisement touching a holy war in 1622, but I haven't read that. Anyway, shall we say who this is? Does anybody guess who this is?
Yes.
Oh, there was there. Okay, so it's Francis Bacon. Here he is.
The one and only Bacon.
Well, no, he's not the one and only Bacon. There's another Bacon, who's
which other Bacon? Roger
Bacon, who's a Franciscan and lives in the 13th century and does cool things with lenses. And this is the other Bacon. This is I think there's sometimes theories that he wrote Shakespeare. Is that right?
Yeah, there's weird theories about this Bacon.
Yeah. You may
a lot
see
of
why
weird
by the end of our
theories.
discussion tonight.
Yeah. Was he real? Was he a fake person? There's lots of things swimming around the internet about this Bacon.
He could have been. I mean, and then there's the whole internet thing about Bacon, right? Okay, so we've teased them long enough. We're going to talk about the New Atlantis. Here we go. Okay. That Bacon, he dies before this is actually published. He writes it in 1624 and it's published posthumously by one of his friends who, W. Hawley, tells us why he thought, people should be interested in this little story that his friend wrote. And he says, Kevin Bacon. Mel, good, yes. there's a Bacon somewhere in all of this, right?
So heroic.
Excuse me. I've entertained myself too much and now I can't talk. Okay, so this is what the story we're about to read is about. To the reader. This fable... Oh, wait, it's a fable. That means it's made up. Right. This fable my lord devised to the end that he might exhibit therein a model or description of a college instituted for the interpreting of nature and the producing of great and marvelous works for the benefit of men, under the name of Solomon's House, or the College of the 6 Days' Works. And even so far his lordship hath proceeded as to finish that part. Certainly, the model is more vast and high than can possibly be imitated in all things, notwithstanding most things therein are within men's power to effect. His lordship thought also in this present fable to have composed a frame of laws, or of the best state or mold of a commonwealth, but foreseeing it would be a long work, his desire of collecting the natural history diverted him, which he preferred many degrees before it. This work of the New Atlantis, as much as concerneth the English edition, his lordship designed for this place. It actually shows up at the end of another book he called the Silva Silvarum, or Natural History. So he devised it to be the epilogue to this longer book. His lordship designed for this place, in regard it hath so near affinity in one part of it with the preceding natural history. Oh, good. Okay. Did you read this? Did you do your homework?
I did.
Oh, good. What were your impressions of this story?
I'm reading it. Pure horror.
Horror.
It's like
horror. It's about Atlantis. That's surely a fairly tame topic.
The first is the ocean a tame topic.
Oh yeah, there's the oh wait, no, I've jumped ahead. Okay, go ahead. We'll go back to the cover page of we've got pillars and a ship. Okay, good. Here we go.
Yes, the shipping and the description of the fleets of the ancient world, or this world of the Atlantean era that he's describing. And it was fascinating to read, because basically what he's describing are all of these high civilizations that existed in an ancient time. So it's a bit like the Tartaria mythology.
Wait, is it real or is it not? I'm confused now.
Well, that's the thing. You get confused as you're reading it, because they're describing massive fleets of vessels moving between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean and the Americas. It's just an interesting thing to look at it and think, is this a possibility? Like, the description of sea power is necessary for high civilization too. Is very striking, which is part of the theme of our story.
Okay, so we got it on the oceans and such, but he's saying that it comes at the end of this book. You realize I did teach this in my Eurociv class, which is why the slides look like slides tonight. They're actually from the PowerPoint for class, right? So we've looked at the preface, and we understand now that this little fable that we're about to talk our way through was published as the finale to this other book, which was called A Natural History, in 10 centuries right? It's like it's giant. It's this enormous encyclopedia, and it's very interesting because if you actually look at the Silvarium, this forest of materials, it's all experiments, right? It's just lists of scientific experiments. So there's these in this table of experiments, which you can't read on screen, is things about, you know, test of the air and test of well, I don't remember. I'd have to look that one up. I didn't memorize them all. It's all actually, as Raleigh said in his opening, things that men can do in nature, right? So it's you know, most things are therein are within men's power to affect. So as I asked my students, it's like, well, wait a minute, why do we have a fable now if this is coming at the end of all these experiments? There is I think a deep question of exactly why he wrote the fable, and instead of just like, and here, go do all this stuff, right? Because the experiments seem to be simply things that you would do, you know, alchemical. they're you know, distillations and pressures, and I'm going to look at that slide because I need to remind myself what it said.
So it's very, very like an experimental laboratory kind of recipe book almost.
I mean, this is what it says in the table that I'm showing, right? Separation of bodies, liquid by weight, infusions in water and air, the appetites, the continuation in liquids, of artificial springs. Oh, this one's my favorite. Of the venomous quality of man's flesh. Like, what? You're eating it? What? The venomous. What does he mean? The venomous quality of man's flesh. I'm going to look that up. Of turning air into water, of helping or altering the shape of the body, of condensing air to yield weight or nourishment. Oh, so you could eat air. That's kind of neat. Of flame and air commixed, of secret nature of flame, of motion of gravity. This is 1624, right? It's not it's before Newton. A contraction of bodies in bulk, of making vines more fruitful, of meats and drinks and most nourishing, of medicines. It's all actually, you know, natural. They say natural philosophy. It's material science. Would you have guessed that from the fable that you read?
No.
What is it? What does it seem more like?
We go.
Yeah.
Well, we go for it's a giant leap from a natural science recipe book to a fable about what they're going to do with all of this knowledge.
Yes.
Huge difference in focus. One seems so innocent, you know. Oh, we'll play around with all of these things and find out all of the lovely secrets of nature and how to manipulate matter.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just science
because we'll have all of this knowledge. It's just science,
right? And so, I mean, it is interesting. So, Fat is asking, what's the best way to read this? Is the Project Gutenberg version complete? Yeah, the Project Gutenberg version is the thing is, what's interesting about this book is it was published in English. So the Project Gutenberg one is the same text as I have. I have the Hackett, this little, is it Hackett? Croft Classics. What is it? No, it's not Hackett. Harlan Davidson. Well, anyway, the Project Gutenberg one is fine. What, turning air into water? You mean like Luke Skywalker did before his grand quest? More 16th century works that Star Wars is retelling. Well, shall we continue, right? So it should simply be, you know, material science, but that's not where it starts, right? It starts with, can we tell the story for them?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
You start.
Yeah.
Do you have your text?
Oh, I don't have. No, I don't have it in front of me. Hold on. You'll have to do it.
You see, she's not practiced at being in class with me. I was like, where's your book? All right, okay. So it starts off. This is why I was making all the jokes about the parrots, right? It starts off with this completely improbable place. You think this isn't English. This is, you know, written by a guy who's a member of parliament who seems to be doing experiments and such. We sailed from Peru. What? Where we had continued by the space of 1 whole year for China and Japan. Now, this is quite a feat in 1624, right? Because although a region called in South America called Peru had been in fact discovered by the Spanish in 1568, I think it's Spanish, Alvaro de Mondaña. Then they couldn't find it again, right? Apparently until 1767. So Peru is one of these places that's known to exist. Probably, right, and in the course of the explorations that people are doing from Europe into the other side of the Americas in the 17th century, but they don't really know where it is, right? So the first thing he might even say, we started from the moon, right? We've been there, but we're not sure we've been back. Right?
We don't have the technology to go back now.
Oh, but we might, right? Okay, so we sail from Peru, and we, all going well until suddenly it's not, and we're going to die, right? We get lost in this wilderness of waters without food, without victual. We gave ourselves up for lost men and prepared for death, right? And then there's this, we're going to have this kind of mixture of fable and something else throughout the account. Yet we did lift up our hearts and voices to God above, who showeth his wonders in the deep, quoting the Psalms, beseeching him of his mercy, that as in the beginning he discovered the face of the deep and brought forth dry land, so he would now discover land to us, that we might not perish. And they're straight up, saying, if only God would do what he did at the beginning of the creation. Just as he, had the waters bring forth dry land, if only we in the midst of the ocean, the imagining it here in the Pacific, we in the midst of the ocean, should have dry land brought forth, right? Well, okay, so God does for them, and they find some clouds, and there they are in the South Sea, and suddenly it's Australia. No, wait. This is all for you. It's not Australia. Sorry. Where is it? Right. We say there is, in fact, this is all going to be Solomonic, right? There is a region in the Pacific called the Solomon Islands. Do you know where those are? Which one of it's on my map? It's
up there and to the right.
And now I can't remember whether I looked this up and say these are the Solomon Islands are named after Bacon's story or vice versa, right? But it's a Solomon Island. What are Solomon Islands doing in the Pacific? For goodness sake, what's up?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of strangely named islands out there in the Pacific. I don't know how to describe why that's called Solomon Islands.
Well, one thing I have shown I think I didn't put them in these slides because they were in some other slides, that by this point in the European explorations, they're clear that the Americas are a different part of the world from what any ancient geographers had described, but they're still persistently looking for the things that they were convinced were on the maps, particularly in Asia. And the main thing that they're convinced was in Asia was, of course, the farthest east. And if you go the farthest east you can in Asia, you find it's not just China. It's paradise, right? Because on all the medieval maps, they'll put Jerusalem at the center and paradise to the far east, right, at the top of the map. And in all of these explorations, Columbus is doing it. He's trying to look for paradise when he's off the coast of South America. That they're still looking for, they're convinced that there must be this better place in the world, whether it's like Atlantis or something else, right? And my guess is that the Solomon Islands, they're still looking for, well, what? And this is what what Bacon plays with in this story. What do they end up with in the story? I have a completely accurate AI version of it. I think this is AI. I'm not sure. It's certainly digital. They come to a fair city, not great indeed, but well built, that gave a pleasant view from the sea, and some people show up. Do you remember? You did read all of. I'm not trying to quiz you now. I'm just trying to let you do some of the storytelling.
She's quizzing me. She is
I am
quizzing
quizzing
me.
you, but I don't want to just read. I want to talk. I mean, it's like, do you remember what happens when they get to the city? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about what happens when they get to the city.
Well, they rock up to the land and find all of these people.
Yes.
That have a very utopian kind of civilization.
And there's some fascinating. Unfortunately for my Eurociv class, we haven't been going through all of these details at the level of fineness that you and I have been in the Mosaic Ark, right? So there's things like when they get there, first a boat comes out with some people on it, and he's very particular about what color their clothes are and everything, and I still don't know why that matters, right? He's got a tipstaff of a yellow cane tipped at both ends with blue. I don't know what those things mean, but this officer of the haven has a little scroll of parchment, in which scroll were written in ancient Hebrew, ancient Greek, and in good Latin of the school, and in Spanish, right? Which is hilarious because by this point in English history, they're basically at permanent war with Spain. And so, like after the Armada, right? And so he's giving his sailors who sailed from Peru, which is claimed by Spain eventually, they speak Spanish. And when they encounter people on this island, they talk to them in Spanish, which there's some of these details that I don't know what to do with, right? But the scroll were written in like warnings, right? You can't land here for 16 days because we have to quarantine you first. This scroll was signed with a stamp of cherubim's wings, not spread but hanging downwards, and then by them a cross. Right, so we're already in like, ooh, strange. We've sailed from Peru and we've found this fair haven when we thought we were lost, and it's been brought up out of the sea as if God has brought land from the waters. And the first thing that happens is we're met by some people with scrolls written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Why those languages?
Interesting choices, huh?
Signed with cherubim's wings and a cross. This is a strange place to encounter, is it not?
Yeah. The Christians of the Pacific.
Oh, really?
These
How
magical
cool.
Christians of the Pacific that have emerged out of the ocean.
But it gets better, right? Because so these Christians, they know all of these European languages. Are they European? No. Although they know Spanish, they know all these languages, right? Which we're going to learn how they do.
Yes.
The sailors, these sailors in the narrator story, right? They say, "Are you Christians?" They ask them, "Are you Christians?" And they say, "We are." And then they say, "Well, if you swear by the merits of the Savior, you're not pirates." Nor have shed blood.
I had a chuckle when I read that.
Lawfully or nor unlawfully within 48 past, you will let you land, right? So they it's an interesting, it's like they have to go through this negotiation of whether or not they're going to be let on the land, and then they're given I like this. They're given fruits like oranges, and they have to give an oath, and they're taken to the stranger's house. Where they get to stay. Okay. And they're taken very well care of. They're given drugs. I like this. That there's some of them, they're sick, right? Because they've been lost at sea for some time. And there's a box of small gray or whitish pills, which they wished our sick should take one of the pills every night before sleep, which they said would hasten their recovery. Right. So this land that they've encountered has, customs for dealing with people that show up there, which include these written documents and so forth. It's already getting this sense of very highly civilized. They have various conversations with the people who meet them about how they're paid and stuff. I think they try to tip this is great. They try to tip the man who helps them at first, and he says, no, you can't pay me. I'm on salary. He's too honest, right?
Immune to corruption, unlike Bacon.
Well, yes. Well spotted there, right? they're going to stay there in the stranger's house, but they find out nobody's been there for a long time because they don't usually get visitors, and these people they're so impressed, right, at what their reception and how well they are, how well taken care of they are, that they say, it appeared, they were saying amongst ourselves, that we were coming to a land of angels, those cherubim wings, right? Mm-hmm. Which did appear to us daily and prevent us with comforts which we thought not of, much less expected. Well, we really want to know who these people are now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
More backstory, right? So, who are they? The island has a fun name.
Mm-hmm. Ben Salam.
What does that suggest?
Sounds very Hebrew.
Hebrew, right?
Mm.
I mean, so it's funny because we've been talking about this story as a backstory for our poem, right? Because of the kinds of things that Bacon puts into this narrative, and the sort of blending of times and histories, and also the properties of what these people are going to be able to deal with. But I have no idea what Bacon's doing here, right? I have heard colleagues talk about his, like, why is the New Atlantis important? And one of the major reasons that people say it's important is it which is what the Gutenberg version says it is it's let me see, saying the generosity, enlightenment, the dignity and splendor, the piety and public spirit of the inhabitants of Ben Salim represent the ideal qualities which Bacon, the statesman, desired rather than hoped to see characteristic of his own country. Right. So there is this, not utopia. I mean, More's utopia is different. We maybe want to talk about that sometime. More's point about utopia is it can't exist. Right. And with Bacon's story here, he seems to be giving us a kind of fable of what kind of country might, ideally exist, so that indeed the officers are salaried and they don't take bribes, and they're priests, right? He's calling them all priests, so that there is this kind of, there's a clear hierarchy of officers and so forth. But insofar as they're priests, it's not really clear what temple they serve, although it's Solomonic throughout. It's a temple of learning and scholarship and experiment more than anything else, and that they know how to deal with the strangers coming in, right? That they put them in the stranger's house, and they have very strong border controls, being an island. They don't just let people in, so that it's a sense of, we need to protect our knowledge and our commerce and our government. Yes. It's very island, right? But it's also, and in Solomon's house, we have Bacon, the scientist, indulging without restriction his prophetic vision of the future of human knowledge. That most people read the New Atlantis, and they read it as indeed as it was published, as the conclusion to this long book of experiments and things like that. And this is the vision of 17th century it's scientific revolution, right? It's the scientific enlightenment. In Hebrew?
Well, it's just very strange. Ben Salam. Why pick Hebrew?
You're saying it's like Ben Salim, son of peace. Right. It's rather than Jerusalem, which would it's not, somehow this island is not simply Jerusalem, which I find interesting, because in the Mappamundi, this is like the opposite side of the world from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in Eurasia in the center, and here we're basically in the center of the ocean on the opposite side of the world. And it's the opposite. It's like the not the polar, well, the equatorial parallel to Jerusalem as a city. And he says, okay, so it's Bensalem, and we get to ask you questions. And they want to know, how is it that you know about Christ?
The religious test begins.
Okay, and then he tells them a story, which is hilarious, right? Okay, so about 20 years after the ascension of our Savior, so AD 50, right? 53. It came to pass that there was seen by the people of Rinfusa, which we have a combination of the Greek words rin and fusus, meaning sheep-natured, a city upon the eastern coast of our island. So the shepherds, right? The shepherds see this. Within night, the night was cloudy and calm, as it might be some mile into the sea, a great pillar of light, not sharp, but in the form of a column or cylinder, rising from the sea a great way up towards heaven. And on the top of it was seen a large cross of light, more bright and resplendent than the body of the pillar, upon which so strange a spectacle the people of the city gathered apace together upon the sands to wonder, and so after put themselves into a number of small boats to go nearer to this marvelous sight. But when the boats were come within about 60 yards of the pillar, they found themselves all bound and could go no further. Yet so as they might move to go about, but might not approach nearer, so as the boats stood all as in a theater, beholding this light as a heavenly sign. It so fell out that there was one in the boats, one of the wise men of the Society of Solomon's House, which house or college, my good brethren, is the very eye of this kingdom, who having a while attentively and devoutly viewed and contemplated this pillar and cross, fell down upon his face, and then raised himself up on his knees, and lifting up his hands to heaven, made his prayers in this manner. Right, and then his prayer is very interesting because he gets the sense of God's working here, right? Lord God of heaven and earth, thou hast vouchsafed of thy grace to those of our order to know thy works of creation and the secrets of them, and to discern as far as appertaineth to the generations of men between divine miracles, works of nature, works of art, and impostures and illusions of all sorts. I do here acknowledge and testify before this people that this thing which we now see before our eyes is thy finger and a true miracle, the pillar of light, right? Which and the paintings that I have here, it's like the pillar of light that shows in the desert, and then he's sort of blending that with the idea of the finger of God writing in the
on the wall in Babylon.
Right. The Babylonian writing on the wall, right? For as much as we learn in our books that thou never workest miracles but to a divine and excellent end, for the laws of nature are thine own laws, and thou exceedest them not but upon great cause. We most humbly beseech thee to prosper this great sign, and to give us the interpretation of it in use and mercy, which thou dost in some part secretly promise by sending it unto us. So then he makes his prayer. He presently found the boat he was in could move, right? And he goes up closer to the pillar. But ere he came near it, the pillar and cross of light break up and cast itself abroad, as it were, into a firmament of many stars, which also vanished soon after. And there was nothing left to be seen but, dun dun dun, a small ark. We found it again. There it is, right? So there's a small ark or chest of cedar, dry and not wet at all with water, though it swam. I mean, we did a whole episode last week looking for the ark, and here it is out there in Bensalem, right? It's got to be the same, yes. And in the
sailing all over the Pacific.
I mean, the thing is, ark just means box, right? Arca, it's a treasure chest box, but he's clearly playing off of all of this. And here we are in Bensalem, which we haven't had. This is their origin story that we're getting. It's like, how do you know the Savior? And we don't yet know why it's called Solomon's house and things like that. But before even that happens, it's like that this people are given some discussion. It's not a vision of Christ, right? It's not he ascends into heaven and comes back down somewhere else, as he apparently does in some other stories.
Yes.
You keep wondering who was reading Bacon, right? It's like is Joseph Smith reading Bacon? It could it be, right? But what's in the box, right? It's like what's in the box that this pillar of light has brought to the island so that these people can be enlightened, right? In the forend of it, which was towards him, grew a small green branch of palm. And when the wise men had taken it with all reverence into his boat, it opened of itself. And there were found in it a book, right? Here's the book. Probably King James Bible, right? Just a book, right? That's it. And you can say, how Protestant can we get, right? Here's this wonderful ark with a palm in it and a book and a letter, both written in fine parchment and wrapped in sindons of linen. Kind of like the baby in the manger, but this is a book. The book contained all the canonical books of the Old and New Testament according as you have them. So the sailors, right? So we've had the scriptures all along. For we know well what the churches with you receive, and the Apocalypse itself, Revelation, and some other books of the New Testament, which were not at that time written, were nevertheless in the book. I mean, this being like very particular, saying somehow they get an ark with the Bible in it that has the books of the New Testament that aren't even yet written in 53, right? So it says at least Acts, Paul's epistles, and Revelation to John. So some other books of the New Testament, which were not at that time written, were nevertheless in the book. And as for the letter, it says it's from Bartholomew, the Apostle Bartholomew. And, you know, I've been told I should commit the ark to the seas. And there's also a miracle that the book as the letter, everyone, when they read it, it was as if it had been written in his own language, right? So it's a sort of Pentecost miracle of the book.
Self-translating.
Yes. So Google Translate in the book. Right?
Yeah.
This is self-translating book
in the
right?
coffin.
That shows up in the ark. All right. Now that is there's. The story goes into more, and we should probably go into it a bit more, but there's this, he wants it to be, you know, we're pre-Hume here, right? We're pre the claim that there's no such thing as miracles. We're saying miracles are rare, and the prayer that the wise man makes about, I want to know the difference between divine miracles, works of nature, and works of art, and impostures and illusions of all sort. And I say here, this is thy finger, the light that I see. This light is somehow, go back to the light. That's a true miracle. But in fact, the laws of nature are God's laws. So thou exceedest them not upon great cause. Therefore, we want to know what this sign is. And the sign that they get is the book of the Bible. I mean, and it's basically the kind of book that was in fact King James's Bible, right? The 1611 book, that it contains all of the canonical books and all the books of the New Testament. And that's what the Ben Salim people have from 20 years after the Ascension.
So they're receiving this this book as a blueprint for their enlightenment. It's an interesting way of. It's very Protestant.
It's delightfully Protestant.
It is. We'll give them the book. As long as they can read the book, then everything will be done perfectly. It's very Protestant. So Ben Salem is a Protestant civilization.
Well, it has
some kind of sola scriptura thing going on.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. At one point, the sailors have there's a Jew who helps them. He's
Oh yes.
Joabim the Jew. And the narrator learns that the Jews in Bensalem give unto our Savior many high attributes and love the nation of Bensalem extremely. Why they're Jews there, I'm not clear, right?
He also makes a very strange point of distinguishing the Jews of Bensalem from Jews everywhere else.
Yeah.
There's a gang war with the Jews of Bensalem versus the Jews of other parts of the world, where he's bragging that their Jews are better than everyone else's Jews. It's just very strange. Yeah. Our Jews are better than yours in a fable, in a fable, imaginary civilization. It's a very, very strange emphasis on this.
I hadn't thought about that. Yes, but it's yes.
Yeah.
He still has dreams. It's saying, that there's going to be a Messiah and sit at his throne in Jerusalem. The king of Bensalem should sit at his feet, whereas other kings should keep a great distance. But yet, setting aside these Jewish dreams, the man was a wise man. And learned and of great policy and excellently seen in the laws and customs of that nation. So that's an interesting puzzle among many other puzzles. But it's clear it's clearly that their Christianity is informed by the book and nothing else. Okay.
Yes.
So why do they know all of the things that they know then? Did
the book magically teach them everything?
No, that's not how they learn. So you were talking about that because we get to this sort of deep history of who they are and where they come from. Oh, actually, there's not where they come from, where they've been, right? Because you were talking about the fleets and the ships of the world. But you all are getting the idea that this is a complicated fable, right?
Yeah. Well, it's shipping. There's this is the emphasis on shipping that was striking, because they have this remembrance of interaction with all of these great merchant sea powers, and that they've been the center of this global trade. So there's a lot of emphasis put on this in the story, that the people in Bensalem have learned the languages of mankind through all of this commercial trade.
Exactly.
And that the maritime networks have allowed them to build up their proficiency in the sciences. Yeah.
So it's in this term, it's a pretty transparent desire for, because he's writing this from England, right?
Yes.
This is the talk about the blueprint for modern science, right? Here's this blueprint for what could we possibly become as a nation that has defeated the Spanish in 1588 and taken control. Well, they haven't taken complete control of the seas now because the Dutch are still, busy Spice Islanding themselves around, flying around the Pacific. But he's projecting this vision of what could be the great maritime reality of humanity, which is all of this contact across all of these oceans. And I think the thing is, talk about, is this science fiction or is it, say, the sci-fi version of the 16th century? 17th century. We've had. Sorry, I've lost track of all the things he's predicting.
He's predicting a global commerce. Totally
predicting the global commerce.
Yes.
Oh, the Joseph Smith joke, right? It's like the degree to which this could there have been knowledge of Christ in these other parts of the world without the direct contact with the the missionaries, the usual story that we have, the growth of Christianity, of
Yes.
but this is this magic, this magic. It's not magic, miraculous ark with the letter from the Apostle Bartholomew shows up, sent to them apparently directly, as Smith later will argue that the tablets are found in North America.
Yes.
What gets spookier and spookier the more you read in the details of the fable is it that all of this came to pass because this is, I don't know, shown to him by angels. I'm not sure he was friends with John Dee, but John Dee's talking to all those angels. I mean, he says it feels like we're in the land of angels. And by the end of reading it, I start thinking, wait a minute, how did he know even to think all of this? Or is it we're still fulfilling, by way of the project that Bacon set, all of the possibilities that he's imagined into the story? One of which is this incredible connection of all of the different cultures.
Yes.
Right. So that we have, they've actually.
It's a road.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's a roadmap for globalization. It is
Absolutely.
the way he's describing it. It's just like, oh, look, it's global homo. The borders are dissolved and everybody's involved in this kind of internationalist cosmopolitanism, borderlessness, but there are some borders because obviously you need some in order for there to be a different culture, but we're not really sure where one crosses over into the other one.
All of that, right? It's like, how long have we been projecting, the New World Order?
Yep.
Well, at least since 1624 when he wrote this. And John Dee in Elizabeth's reign does project, to coin the idea of the British Empire. But this is bigger than that. This Ben Salim has one. They've been sending out sort of missions, or not missions. Actually, they're not missions at all. They're not in the sense that they're going to go talk to people. They're going to go talk to them, and
they're more like
spies,
colonists,
spy networks, right? That the sailors are starting to think that this is a land of magicians, and then they keep saying, no, it's more angelical than magical. I think there's some sense of this, whether or not Bacon is describing a character like Prospero in The Tempest here is some of the Shakespearean level of imagining that we're having somehow this island magician able to control the weather and bring the ships in and things like that. But the one question is, it's like, why haven't anybody heard about this? Is because the island's really good at keeping itself secret, that they don't let strangers show up. Okay, so here's the global part. You shall understand that which perhaps you will scarce think credible, that about 3,000 years ago, or somewhat more, the navigation of the world, especially for remote voyages, was greater than at this day, right? that he's New Atlantis, right? But he's projecting this 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years before Christ, in Solomon's reign, I suppose. Do not think with yourselves that I know not how much it has increased with you within these 60 years. Taking 1492 as the beginning, right? I know it well, and yet I say, greater then than now, whether it was than the example of the ark that saved the remnant of men from the universal deluge, gave men confidence to adventure upon the waters, or what it was, but such is the truth. The Phoenicians, and especially the Tyrians, had great fleets. So had the Carthaginians, their colony, which is yet further west. Towards the east, the shipping of Egypt and Palestina was likewise great. China also, and the great Atlantis, that you call America. I like that, right? It's like, here we have with the great old ships, and Atlantis was actually, that's what you call America now, right? Which have now but junks and canoes, abounded then in tall ships. This island, as appeared by faithful registers of those times, like there's history of it from then, which is delightful. Had then 1,500 strong ships of great content. Of this, all this there is with you sparing memory or none, but we have large knowledge thereof. Okay, so this projection of there was this lost history. Yeah, guys, it's we've been doing that for a while. But it's fascinating that Bacon is doing this in a form that, again, the internet does constantly now. But he's saying there used to be this great, fabulous, high civilization, and we have records of it, but it's all gone in your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to list, other places that people are coming from. Atlantis flourishes at this time. There's also, great civilizations in Peru and Mexico. Mighty and proud kingdom is in arms, shipping and riches.
Mm-hmm.
Details about theirs. And it's
Well,
when
it's
Atlantis drowns that all of that is also lost, right? So this when Atlantis falls, the Americas are flooded, and that it's at that point that the inhabitants of America become what you now see, right? That they lose their civilization.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting the way that they're describing it, because people are aware that there were high civilizations in the Americas. Like
right.
Mesoamerica has the pyramids, Aztecs, Incas, all of these kinds of things. But the way that they've shifted it into making them into sea powers is interesting, because no one describes the American civilizations as sea powers. So we're going from this description of the peoples there as a maritime people to descending into something like tribal savagery almost,
right.
Overnight. Yeah.
I mean, so the other thing I just taught in Eurociv was the conquest of Mexico City, and Tenochtitlan used to be on a lake, and they had barks, or it's like barges, right, that went around the lake. And the island, it was an island that was connected to the land by these big causeways, which feature in Cortez's, attacks and retreats and so forth, because they're these long bridges that connect so they had some shipping, but you're right, it's not. They're not typically.
It wasn't oceanic.
Yeah, they're not typically known as oceanic shipping. But we're not freaked out. We're not completely freaked out yet.
Oh, getting there.
Well, the imagining that Bacon is going into this, some of what he's doing is reflecting the effects of the European explorations, right? They're suddenly aware of all of these other parts of the world, and constantly imagining this. Well, as you were describing, this connected world, right? And what you were saying about that in this vision, the way I tend to think of it is it's like Numenor. And I wonder again. It's like Bacon's pretty famous. So was Tolkien reading this, or is there's an Atlantis story there, and Tolkien has the Numenorian fall like an Atlantis fall, but the way the Ben Salamites operate, being in contact with all of these different regions with their shipping and being very secret about it, and going maybe we haven't gotten to that part where they send out ships to collect knowledge.
Yeah, they're colonists, but they're not establishing colonies, right, so to speak. They're sent out as a kind of secret emissaries all over the place to gather knowledge, and then it's very strange because the boats just drop them off, right, and leave them there for long periods of time. Then they have to wait for the boats to come back and pick them up again. It's like a reverse colonization. They're sent out in order to import back into Bensalem.
Yes, and that's what are they importing? What are they scooping up in all of their studies? Well, this is where we get finally the proper introduction to where we are. There reigned in this island about 1900 years ago. So it would be, this is 1620, so about 288 BC, right? A king whose memory of all others we most adore, not superstitiously, but as a divine instrument, though a mortal man. His name was Solomona, and we esteem as the lawgiver of our nation. This king had a large heart, inscrutable for good, and was wholly bent to make his kingdom and people happy. He therefore, taking in consideration how sufficient and substantive this land was to maintain itself without any aid at all of the foreigner, and it's fertile in ports and such like that, he gives it laws and makes sure that the laws are appropriate. The Hawley had said, Raleigh, what his name is, Raleigh, it said that Bacon meant to include a sort of blueprint for a commonwealth in his studies, but got taken up. He got more interested in the natural.
He went on a side quest.
So, but he's given them laws and the prohibitions about communicating with strangers and so forth. But then this is what is really important. He founds a society, an order or society, which we call Solomon's House, the noblest foundation, we think, that ever was upon the earth, and the lantern of this kingdom. So the light, right, of the kingdom. It is dedicated to the study of the works and creatures of God. Some think it beareth the founder's name a little corrupted, as if it should be Solomona's house. Solomona's house, right? But the records write it as it is spoken. So as I take it to be denominate of the King of the Hebrews, which is famous with you and no stranger to us, for we have some parts of his works which with you are lost. They have Solomon's wisdom, which is mentioned in the scriptures. It's like the only thing that we care about that came out of that art box of the scriptures is Solomon's wisdom, in fact. Right? For we have some part of his works which are lost, namely that natural history which he wrote, of all plants, from the cedar of Lebanon to the moss that groweth out of the wall, and all things that have life and motion. That's from in 1 Kings. This making me think that our king, finding himself to symbolize in many things with that king of the Hebrews, which lived many years before him, honored him with the title of this foundation. And I am rather induced to be of this opinion, for that I find in ancient records this order or society is sometimes called Solomon's House and sometimes the College of the 6 Days Works, with the 6 days of creation. So this is all about the sailors find themselves in this new creation, the land that's come out of the ocean. And what they have there are these colleges or houses of the 6 days works, the works of creation, whereby I am satisfied that our excellent king had learned from the Hebrews that God had created the world and all that therein is within 6 days. And therefore he instituted that house for finding out of the true nature of all things. And this is why they're sending out the ships, that he sends out ships on different voyages, and they're meant to go and basically spy out all of the manufactures and inventions of the world, bring books and instruments and patterns of every kind, and come back with not gold and silver or jewels or silks, but only, it says, we trade nothing but only God's first creature, light. So they're merchants of light. And then he falls.
This is very good. Very creepy.
But why? It sounds great. Are we going to have knowledge? And I mean, so the other thing that this, because it's all about the society and it's under the king and such, one of the things that probably gets planted in a seed of an idea here is the Royal Society of science, right? So by the end of the 17th century, the English will have a Royal Society.
For their sciences, natural
for their
sciences.
For their sciences. What goes on in these houses? Right, we have here at Solomon's Temple, but we actually have from the only illumination that I've ever been able to find, or the only picture that goes with the book is the houses, the new Atlantis and their houses of science. So we get another speaker who's come to them, and he's going to tell them who he is. He's one of the fathers of Solomon's house. And he comes and makes his entry. He's dressed in black cloth with wide sleeves. He's got white linen garment under, a hat like a helmet. He's carried in a rich chariot without wheels, litter-wise, with 2 horses at either end, richly trapped, in blue velvet embroidered, and 2 footmen on each side in like attire. The chariot was all of cedar, gilt and adorned with crystal, save that the front end had panels of sapphire set in borders of gold, and the hinder end of like emeralds of the Peru color. So he's got blue and green litter. A sun of gold radiant upon the top, in the midst, on the top before a small cherub of gold with wings displayed, cherub with gold of tissue upon blue, 50 attendants. They're all nicely dressed. Staff bearers, other officers and principals. And he's going to tell them all about what goes on in these houses. What goes on in these houses?
Sciencing.
Well, this we've actually gone through in fairly great detail for Draco Chemicus. What is science? What is science? I mean, so Bacon's doing he's going to do so much work in this fable to make it out as one. It's this kind of, it's hard to say whether it's holy, right? It's like exactly what kind of, he wants it to be God-given in certain respects, but the Ben Silamites are researchers and spies, to a certain degree secretive, but you get other things about their society. They have a very good, the legal system is all fair. And there's this whole interlude between describing their history and getting to these houses where we have their marriage customs and such, which are strange and bizarre. We're not going to talk about those.
Oh, yeah. See, now I want to talk about it because you've mentioned it.
Well, is it relevant?
It's so
right?
strange. Only in as much as I think he predicted the rise of Tinder.
Oh, now you have to explain. Okay, go ahead.
But just these bizarre things. What did they call it? The Adam and Eve pool, where they have the opportunity to go and see their future spouse's physiology in a socially acceptable way by everyone going and bathing naked in the middle of the.
They don't want to be disappointed
in the pool,
right? So they get to see each other naked first.
Yeah, but it's even weirder because it's suggesting if they don't actually look at their future spouse themselves, that they go send their friends to go and perv on their.
I missed that part.
Go and perv on their fiance. It was very, very funny. Yeah. So they're establishing this system of I suppose that would be a eugenics practice, wouldn't it? We're going to look at you naked before we
actually, you're right.
allow the wedding to go through.
Because of the many hidden defects in men and women's bodies, they have a more civil way, where they have near every town a couple of pools, which they call Adam and Eve's pools, where it's permitted to one of the friends of the man, you're right, and another of the friends of the woman to see them severally bathe naked.
Yeah, so you ask your bestie to go and perv on somebody.
So that you can know whether they
and
have
make sure
any
you're
defects.
not marrying a dysgenic freak. It's very cutthroat, and the way it's described is so civil, and they're so civilized. This is so civil and it's proper, but actually when you're reading it, they're describing eugenics practice.
It's like angelic or magical. And they keep saying, no, it's angelic. It's angelic. All this knowledge that we have is angelic. And it's not magic at all. It's completely natural, known to the power, these are effects that can be known by the power of man. So we go through some of the effects that can be known by the power of man, right? This is the rehearsal of these. This is, you realize everyone has been, the reason this text was recommended to me for teaching in Eurocid was because it's been described as, this gives the blueprint for the research university. This is what we're actually up to. This is the plan from 1624 through the founding of the Royal Society, through the projections of the Industrial Revolution, that this is what we're aiming for. And Bacon in his, very Protestant, it is sort of creation, it's creation framed for what he thinks they're doing, but what does he think they should be up to? And you realize we started this episode by saying we're going to predict everything before anybody else has said that these are things that are going to happen. And one, we've already said that, yes, they're predicting the globalization. Straight up.
Yeah. And Tinder.
All right. Well, okay, so we had the end of our foundation is the knowledge of causes and the secret motions of things and the enlarging of the bounds of human empire to the effecting of all things possible. You gonna worry about transhumanism yet? Better start. Okay, so there are these caves. What do they do in the caves? Deep caves.
Oh, the caves. The caves.
We have caves. We use them for, well, it sounds like cryogenics.
Yeah.
Refrigeration and conservation of bodies.
Yeah.
Yep. Make artificial metals. Here we go. The producing also of new artificial metals by compositions of materials. Cure diseases, prolongation of life for some hermits that choose to live there. That's just the first paragraph. High towers. Ooh, I've got a picture of one of their towers. There it is. 1/2 mile high. Right there in Dubai.
Oh, yes. The Burj was predicted.
It says we have high towers, the highest about 1/2 mile in height. There it is. We built it.
Yeah.
They studied the weather in these towers, right? Upper region, middle region, lower region. We use these towers according to their several heights and situations for insulation, refrigeration, conservation, for the view of diverse meteors, as winds, rain, snow, hail, and some of the fiery meteors also. And sometimes hermits live there too. Okay, that's good. The hermits are everywhere.
Hermits in the sky, hermits in the ground.
They are. Okay, so we have 1/2 mile high. We have lakes of salt and fresh where we use for fish and fowl. They also use these for burials, pools, straining fresh water out of salt, desalination. Very good.
Desalination. And the opposite, didn't they say they got salt out of fresh water?
Yes, they do. And then I every time I read this, I see more stuff. We have likewise violent streams and cataracts, which serve us for many motions. They have hydropower. And likewise engines for multiplying and enforcing of winds.
Wind farms.
They make...
Hey.
It's like, it sounds so innocent, right? Multiplying and enforcing of winds. They're making hurricanes. Tornadoes, what? Multiply. What do you do with you multiply and enforce winds? They're controlling the weather. Right?
Yeah.
Bacon has envisioned, never mind Leonardo da Vinci, right? Bacon is envisioning, and you realize then why we started using it for Draco Alchemicus, all of the horrors. And to say that this is, it's like he's done this whole kind of oh, it's like Atlantis, oh, it's the lost knowledge that we used to have. It's all wholly natural, right? He's saying this is not something that we don't get this through prayer, right? We have prayer, and we are Christian, but the premise is constantly we are now going to control the effects of nature. Artificial wells and fountains made in imitation of natural sources and baths is tincted upon vitriol, sulfur, steel, brass, lead, niter, and other minerals. There's a water, a paradise, being by that which we do to it. So they've made it, this water of paradise, made very soft for health and prolongation of life. All of their medicines are, I mean, he's constantly saying it's, for, curing your diseases, prolongation of life, this water of paradise. Great and spacious houses where we imitate and demonstrate meteors as snow, hail, rain, some artificial rains of bodies and not of water, thunders, lightnings, generations of bodies in air as frogs, flies, and diverse others. So they're definitely playing with the weather. Chambers where we change the air for cure diverse diseases and preservations of health. Baths, again, for mixtures and cure diseases. Restoring of man's body from aerifaction. They're de-aging, anti-aging. And generally the kinds of visions that people have at the moment for health, he's already projecting. And to remember that this fable comes at the end of those multi-volume list of experiments. I'm really wondering what's in the rest of those experiments now. Right? Have we all just has
what's in the cookbook?
Literally, modern science just been marching through his forest of materials, trying to figure out how to do all the things that he imagined, or maybe the angels told him. We have
angels and magicians.
Bacon. Casey's saying Bacon reminds me of Nostradamus with his predictive ability. He's actually scarier. Because what Nostradamus did was sort of prophetic imagery. Bacon is, if you just read carefully, it's like he says multiplication of this and control of winds, and you're like, wait a minute, he just said control of the weather, right? We have also large and various orchards and gardens, and they're going to make different kinds of drinks.
The most, because the way he described the orchards was that they dismissed beauty as being necessary for their agriculture. So it says, I forget what it says exactly in the paragraph there, but it says, we don't care how the gardens look. It's all about maximizing production.
You're right. We do not so much respect beauty as variety of ground and soil, proper for diverse trees and herbs.
It's absolute pure utilitarian philosophy. They don't care what anything looks like. So beauty's out. What we care about is production, productivity, and manipulation of the harvest.
Right.
That was one of the scariest descriptions in that fable for me, because I thought he's declared that this vision of the perfect society is one where beauty has been completely eradicated in favor of utility.
I hadn't thought of that.
I felt really creeped out by it, because that's what we've been that's what we've inherited in the modern world.
Right.
It doesn't matter how anything looks. If it works, that's okay. You start to see how that mindsets come in.
Right. And it started with this lovely vision of this, beautiful island with a bribe-free salaried class and good laws and everything, and that this is the way our Draco in our story works, right? The dragon in the story entices you in, right? It's like you have to be the first presentation that he makes of any of these offers seems delightful, right? It seems like, well, that sounds nice. And then, and this is, as storytellers, this is our challenge, right? Because we're having to sort of pace this correctly to say, at what point do you go, oh my gosh, what did he just say? And we make, by art, in the same orchards and gardens, trees and flowers to come earlier or later than their seasons, to come up and bear more speedily than by their natural courses they do.
Yeah.
By art, that means genetically modifying them. Yeah. We make them also by art. Oh, art, that sounds nice. It'll be pictures. No, he means by artifice, by making, by craft, by manipulating them. By art, greater much than, we make them also by art, greater much than their nature. And their fruit greater and sweeter, and of differing taste, smell, color, and figure from their nature. They're making fake fruit. Yeah. So it's, tomatoes that are more red, or carrots that are more orange, or maybe they're green, or maybe they're, I don't know.
They used to be purple.
Well, carrots did used to be purple, and then they made them orange. To go with the orange. It's like they made fake colors. Different taste, smell, color, and figure. It's like the shapes of the food are different. And many of them we so order as they become a medicinal use. Well, gee. We have also means to make diverse plants rise by mixtures of earth without seeds. They're making it's like sterile. And likewise to make diverse new plants differing from the vulgar, and to make one tree or plant turn into another. Are we yet horrified? Yeah. Oh, we're not done. It gets worse. We have beasts and birds that we use for dissection and trials. That we may take light what may be wrought upon the body of man. Okay, animal experiments. Knew that was coming.
Yes.
Wherein we find many strange effects, as continuing life of them through diverse parts, which you account vital, be perished and taken forth, resuscitating of some that seem dead in appearance, and the like. Oh, goody, right? We also try all poisons and other medicines upon. They're doing animal experiments. If you're wondering about why we have the kinds of animal experiments that we do now, guess what? Projected here. As well as chirurgery, surgery, and physic medicine. By art, likewise, we make them greater or taller than their kind is, and contrariwise dwarf them, and stay their growth. And we make them more fruitful and bearing than their kind is, and contrariwise barren and not generative. So they're forcing fertility, and they're making sterility. They're messing with the reproductive cycles of all of these animals. And also,
there's synthetic races of these animals. Or a strain or a species. Right. They're all synthetic.
And as Casey's saying, asexual reproduction, clones, yes, they're doing it all. We make them different color, shape, activity, many ways. We find means to make commixtures and copulations of different kinds. They have hybrids. Yeah. I mean, I realized 2 years ago when I read this, they're doing gain of function too, with flies, fishes, putrefaction, some advanced in effect. Neither do we do this by chance, but we know beforehand of what manner and commixture, what kind of those creatures will arise. So he's projecting absolutely everything that we are suddenly saying, oh yes, the New World Order is worrying, trying to create. Yeah, guess what? The plan has been there for centuries, right? Oh yeah, now we're to the kitchens. The test kitchens, right? Breweries, bakehouses, kitchens, where made diverse drinks, breads, and meats. Fake meat, anybody? Wines we have of grapes, and drinks of other juice of fruits, grains, roots, mixtures with honey, sugar, manna, and fruits dried and decocted. Also, the tears or woundings of trees. They take sap, pulp of canes. And these, this is great. And these drinks are of several ages, some to the age or last of 40 years. So they're distilled, or they last a long time. We have drinks also brewed with several herbs and roots and spices. Yea, with several fleshes and white meats, whereof some of the drinks are such that they are in effect meat and drink both. He's got protein drinks, for goodness sake.
Oh my gosh. The gym bros have just entered. Salam.
Got meat, drink
protein
shakes.
Ladies, protein shakes. It doesn't sound as appealing. See, this is the language difference too, which is what we're playing with. You know, if you just call something like a meat drink, it doesn't sound as appealing. You've got
protein drink. Oh yes, I'm going to take that, right? Or this one. So that divers, even especially in age, do desire to live with them with little or no meat or bread.
Oh, they get their Soylent Green.
Yeah. Formula, right? He says, especially for the old, right? They're going to have strengthening drinks. And above all, we strive to have drinks of extreme thin parts, fine composition, to insinuate into the body, and yet without all biting sharpness or fretting, as much as some of them put upon the back of your hand will, with a little stay, pass through to the palm, yet taste mild to the mouth. Wow, that sounds like they're like absorbing them through your skin. Who knows?
Transdermal. Transdermal.
It keeps going. Breads of different kinds. Oh, yes. So for meats, we have some of them so beaten and made tender and mortified, yet without all corrupting, as a weak heart of the stomach will turn them into good chilice, the stuff your stomach makes, as well as a strong heart with meat otherwise prepared. Fasting foods. Great. Okay, so projected all of the artificial foods that we have now.
Yeah.
We haven't got to medicine yet. He doesn't spend his life. We get drugs and ingredients, different medicine for diverse ages, long fermentations. He's I mean, this is a little more general. He's imagining all these different kinds of medicines. Okay. And we're still not done. So we've got controlling the weather. We've got controlling the food.
Hybrid clone animals that are like half shark, half frog, half giraffe.
He'd do it.
Third.
He'd do it. Yes, I mean, it's like, say this, it's like some, commixture and copulations of different kinds. So he's straight up mean hybrids.
And granny slop.
We have also diverse mechanical arts, which you have not, and stuffs made by them. Now we're going to go to all of the artificial textiles, right? As papers, linens, silks, tissues, dainty works of feathers of wonderful luster, excellent dyes, and many others, and shops likewise, as well as for such as are not brought into vulgar use amongst us as for those that are. And then he says we have patterns for everything. So imagining all of the different kind of textile production, and you could say that will easily transmit into all of our synthetic fabrics and so forth. We have also
polyester.
Yeah.
He's predicted polyester.
Furnaces of great diversities that keep great diversity of heats, fierce and quick, strong and constant, soft and mild, blown, quiet, dry, moist, and the like. But above all, we have heats in imitation of the sun's and heavenly bodies' heats. I mean, that's straight up nuclear fusion.
Yep.
Instruments which generate heat only by motion. Casey, Nagahide. Yeah. Fat. I'm just waiting for him to say they turn men into women and women into men. And why not? Right? It's like they really are saying we can. He started with creation. They want to be angels in the sense of the Enochian angels that come down to the sons of, the daughters of men, and give them knowledge of, cosmetics and metal and metallurgy. They started with metals, right? That they have artificial metals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the caves. Yeah.
right? What happened to the artificial metals? Imitation of natural minds, and the producing also of new artificial metals. I mean, he's when he's saying angels, it's not as innocent as it sounds. It's not like, oh, cool, it's sweet, and it's power, right? Straight up. We're gonna have half-mile high towers, which is still on screen right now, and we are going to engineer all of this because we can. And it is fascinating. There's zero qualms about going against God's nature or anything like that. He's saying all of these properties fit within the idea of nature, and therefore it's all the appropriate search for light that we've been involved in. He's saying we're going into this with the desire that we get from that pillar of light that we saw, and we're always participating in the quest for the light. But darn it, this Draco Alchemicus is... We have perspective houses, where we make demonstrations of all lights and radiations, and of all colors. And out of things uncolored and transparent, we can represent unto you all several colors. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Screens. Yeah.
I mean, and perspective houses, like
holograms.
Holograms. Not in rainbows
Yeah.
as it is in gyms and prisons, but of themselves single. He's got lasers.
Yeah.
We represent also all multiplications of light, which we carry to great distance, and make so sharp as to discern small points and lines. That's lasers. Yeah. Also, all colorations of light, all delusions and deceits of the sight, in figures, magnitudes, motions, colors, all demonstrations of shadows.
Animation. This is animation.
We will remind you again, this is 1624. It's like, how does... I am kind of freaked out, right? Never mind who wrote Shakespeare, right? How does Bacon have in his mind all of these possibilities? Now, I have studied enough, medieval science, and that, they do things like observe the heavens, the cosmology, because they need to calculate time. Like, then they need to know the movement of the heavens to know years and Easter dates and things like that. They've been experimenting since the first Bacon, the Roger Bacon, with prisms and they have Grosseteste, contemporary Bacon, has some knowledge of rainbows, which is interesting. It's like this it's some hundreds of years of thinking about the possibilities of all these experiments. They're doing things. He gets to lenses. Right now, he's going to see objects far off,
glass
or close up, spectacles and glasses and things like that. So, I mean, maybe don't underestimate the abilities that they already have mechanically to do experiments in the early 17th century. But I'm not sure they had lasers and nuclear fusion, right? He says we have. Both lenses were seen far off, like Galileo has in this period, but also glasses and means to see small and minute bodies perfectly and distinctly. Again, I'm not quite sure. Leeuwenhoek is the one who does all of the small animal experiments. I thought he was a little later than this, but I could be wrong. We have they can see things like flaws and gems and stuff. We make artificial rainbows, halos, and circles about light. We represent all manner of reflections, refractions, and multiplications of visual beams of objects.
So that's X-rays and ultrasounds.
Oh, we get to We get to sound next.
CT scans.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Infrared, ultraviolet. I mean,
no, MRI scanning.
That's magnetic.
All
Magnetic
of the other medical
resonance.
scans.
Yeah,
that's magnetic. Yeah.
But he's doing all these visual, reflections, refractions, multiplications of visual beings. Again, projecting all of the kinds of illusions and operations on light that we have now. Industrial gemstones, anyone? We have also precious
Yeah.
gems of all kinds, many of them great beauty, and to you unknown. Crystals likewise, and glasses of diverse kinds, and among them some of metals vitrificated, made glass, right? And other materials besides these of which you make glass. Also a number of fossils and imperfect minerals, which you have not. Likewise, lodestones of prodigious virtue and other rare stones, both natural and artificial. So they're making artificial gems. So that's vision. Now we have sound. We have also sound houses where we practice and demonstrate all sounds in their generation. We have harmonies, which you have not. It's got electronic music here, right? Quarter sounds and lesser slides of sounds. Diverse instruments of music, likewise to you unknown. Some sweeter than any you have, together with bells and rings that are dainty and sweet. We represent small sounds as great and deep, likewise great sounds extenuate and sharp. We make diverse tremblings and warblings of sounds, which in their original are entire. I'm not entirely sure what he means by all that, but it's like it's like stretching.
He's sampling with a synthesizer, and he's mixing it in he's mixing it on a sampling deck. That's what it sounds like. They're making electronic music. Yeah.
We represent and imitate all articulate sound and letters. Deep fake voice, anybody? And the voices and notes of birds and beasts. See, this is the problem that the dragon got us with, guys, in modernity. We've been working on this for hundreds of years, and in this vision of we have great helps, we have certain helps which set to the ear do further the hearing greatly. So the hearing aids, okay, fine. Yeah. We have diverse, strange, and artificial echoes reflecting the voice many times, and as it were tossing it, and some that give back the voice louder than it came. Megaphones,
speakers and microphones.
Some that give back the voice, some shriller and some deeper. Sound, mixing and such, right? Yeah. Yea, some rendering the voice differing in the letters or articulate sound from that they receive. We also have means to convey sounds in trunks, tubes, and pipes, in strange lines, directions, and distances. So imagine all kinds of projections of sound. Casey, mimicking creation. Yes, the entire society of the New Atlantis is a fake. Yes! Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's like, didn't it sound, we did spend some time setting it up. Doesn't sound lovely, and all the experiments and knowledge. And you said we have perfume houses wherewith we join also practices of taste. We multiply smells, which may seem strange. We imitate smells, making all smells to breathe out of other mixtures than those that give them. They fake scent. We make diverse imitations of taste likewise, so they will deceive any man's taste.
Artificial colors and flavors.
There's your food, right? And with the fun detail that I have, it's all made in New Jersey, right? Which is there's a fast food nation. They're talking about the fast food industry, and it's like how they make sure that you're going to want to eat that Big Mac because, McDonald's has spent a lot of money to flavor test it exactly right. Well, we make all sweetmeats, dry and moist, diverse pleasants, wines, milks, broths, and salads, far in greater variety than you have. They've got all of the artificial flavors and scents.
Starting to sound like a vending machine.
We have engine houses. Prepared engines and instruments for all sorts of motion. There we may imitate and practice make swifter motions than any you have, either out of your muskets or any engine you have, and to make them and multiply them more easily with small force by wheels and other means, and to make them stronger, more violent than yours are, exceeding your greatest cannons and basilisks.
Nuclear weaponry.
We represent all kinds of ordnance and instruments of war and engines of all kinds. Likewise, new mixtures and compositions of gunpowder, wildfires burning in water. and unquenchable. Now, you could say that's simply Greek fire. We don't know how to make that either, but it's flames on water.
Yeah.
Also, fireworks of all variety, both for pleasure and use. Oh, now here's the passage everybody likes. We imitate also flights of birds. We have some degrees of flying in the air, airplanes, right? And we know that, Leonardo da Vinci and people are also imagining this, but we have ships and boats for going underwater, submarines. Brooking of seas and swimming girdles and supporters, right? Diving machines. We have diverse curious clocks and other light motions of return, and some perpetual motions. We also imitate motions of living creatures by images, which means here robots, of men, beasts, birds, fishes, and serpents. We have also a great number of other various motions, strange for quality, fineness, and subtlety. So he's imagining all of the machines that we have now, and all the engines and robots and so forth. Mathematical house for instruments of geometry. And then the final one. Casey's the everlasting gobstopper. Yes, he does keep going. We also have houses of deceits of the senses, where we represent all manner of feats of juggling, false apparitions, impostures, and illusions and their fallacies. And surely you will easily believe that we have so many things truly natural which induce admiration, could in a world of particulars deceive the senses. Really? He just spent all this time saying, oh, and these last houses of deceit, right? It's like we've been talking about artificial flavors and fruits of the wrong color and hybrid animals and all of those. And now deceive the senses if we would disguise those things and labor to make them seem more miraculous. But we don't do that. But we do hate all impostures and lies, insomuch as we have severely forbidden it to all our fellows, under pain of ignominy and fines, that they do not show any natural work or thing adorned or swelling, but only pure as it is, and without all affectation of strangeness. Oh, really?
Not corrupt at all. No one's taking bribes.
It's all very pure and within the the bounds of creation, and not magical. It's all natural.
This is a horror story. Everything is fake. Everything in their world is fake.
Completely.
Everything is synthetic.
So in Dubai, there's this tower, but there's also an Atlantis, right? The hotel.
Oh yeah.
Which I found a few others of this one I like because it's obviously enormous, and this it's like what is Ben Salim, but not this kind of fantasy island world which we are building now. All of these desert, our Chicago, right? But the degree to which you're saying he's projected from 1624 the possibility of all of these horrors and cast it in this fable of it's utterly natural that you should be doing all of these experiments, and then the conclusion is these are my son, the riches of Solomon's house, which is definitely trying to echo like wisdom. Right? The Solomon in the Bible is wisdom of Solomon, which is moral teachings and proverbs. And yes, Solomon in scripture is said to have had all this wisdom, and we've talked about him before. As the Queen of Sheba came and he gave her the ark. Well, here the ark shows up with the Bible in it that's printed by King James. That it's this solid. It's like a covering of yes, we're simply doing things within the bounds of.
It's scriptural.
Scripture, yeah.
Yeah. So it's fine.
And that these people are called for the several employments and officers of our fellows. We have 12 that sail into foreign countries under the names of other nations. for our own we conceal. They're spies, right? Who bring us the books and abstracts and patterns of experiments of all other parts. These we call merchants of light, who do it in secret, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole set of others, right? That's like talking about how the mystery men who collect the experiments of all mechanical arts, and the miners and compilers. It's almost like by the end he's like, yeah, they're doing it behind your back and collecting all of this stuff, and there's this secret power somewhere in the Pacific that has all of these. We want to blow up Bikini Atoll and be done with now, right? They have those Adam and Eve pools. It's clearly bikinis.
Yeah. Well, if they're wearing bikinis, but the entire civilization is just set up as a giant merchant spy network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is the vision. Yeah. This is this vision that we've had the editors say, it's like, truly, you should be in horror by now. Fat has got it right. I can teach you how to brew fame, bottle glory, and even put a stopper in death. Yes. That Raleigh at the beginning had said, this fable my lord devised, and to the end that he might exhibit therein a model or description of a college instituted for the interpreting of nature and the producing of great and marvelous works for the benefit of men, under the name of Solomon's House, or the College in 6 days' works, and even so far his lordship hath proceeded as to finish that part. Right, so it's this. And now it's like, I'm not sure now. When I first read this a few years ago, I was like, oh, this is great. He's thinking in like the Solomonic temple terms, and Margaret Barker would be happy because all of this wisdom is still cast in this sense of we're living within the temple tradition.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is not so. They've divorced it from any kind of consideration of the creator. This is the manipulation of the creation that's completely separated from the creator. Even the way that they've described the priesthood in Ben Salem, it's a scientific priesthood. It's got nothing to do with it's described even as a kind of moral priesthood, but that would be something like a humanism or like psychological kind of morality. But there is nothing in terms of communicating with the creator. This is all manipulation of matter.
They have at the end that we have certain hymns and services which we say daily of laud and thanks to God for his marvelous works, and forms of prayers imploring his aid and blessing for the illumination of our labors and the turning of them into good and holy uses. But yes, it's all the utilitarianism is overwhelming.
Yes. And it's it's like a prayers to which God? Do you know what I mean? Like this kind of vague religion that's not specified.
Right. I mean, it's supposed to be Christ, but they don't seem to have any Christian practices.
Yes.
Even though they have the books, right? So if you're thinking you can get Christianity simply from reading the scriptures, apparently they couldn't in Salem. Or you could say it's so purely Protestant in the sort of strictest sense, right? It's like there's zero of the church. They don't learn how to be Christian in any, and they don't talk about Christ. They talk about the creator and the merchants of light and stuff like that. But what I say, it's like, who is the bearer of light? Who's the great light bearer? Wait, I've lost myself in our pictures. The first book of Moses. We'll have Michael here fighting the other light bearer. Mm-hmm. Right. The sleight of hand throughout all of it is even more horrifying when you think, was this not Luciferian?
Yes.
Right. We have the light.
Yes.
But what kind of light are they operating with?
Yeah. Is it Christ? Or is it just pure knowledge?
Well, I think it's certainly not just contemplation
They're
of creation. It's not
yeah.
the wonders of nature so as to praise God for his beauty, the beauty. And I'd miss that about the trees. But you're right, that there's nothing about the beauty of the creation.
No, it's all I can extract from it.
Yeah.
So it's control and domination of nature, of the creation of all things. It's a kind of Promethean society. Yeah, they've established themselves as as merchants of ways to dominate matter, with
Exactly.
no consideration of the goodness of it or the beauty of it. And they don't seem particularly concerned with truth. I mean, they haven't described any kind of discussion about this. All of their focus has been on the utility of changing the materials that they're collecting. So it's very dark.
And no meaning of life, right? There's no,
Yeah.
Fat saying, go look at the UN or WF or Bilderberg to see how this moral priesthood actually behaves. This is, you've got it exactly, right? Fat, that's exactly right. This is the horror of what you realize when we started with the tease of, it's like, if you want to predict what's coming, well, somehow Bacon did in 1624, which is terrifying of itself. But this, the feel of, and this is one of the things that we're trying to, convey in Draco Alchemicus, because we have Act 1 starts in the more modern moment, right? It's kind of ish 20th century, 21st century. It's like it's now, right? But the characters at the end are going to go through a portal that takes them back in time. They're going to end up in the Elizabethan period, but it's all kind of one time, right? And as we're writing it, we're trying to they're in distinct sort of moments, kind of in fable terms, right? But the problem is modernity is all of this. It starts as far back as the 16th century at least, and it's like one moment, and you can see it very clearly in the New Atlantis that they're already imagining what we have now. And I'll go back to so this slide, this is an interesting one. I'm going to read it because you probably can't see it. I came across this experiment described 2 years ago when I was teaching the class, so it was in my slides. And it's researchers at Rochester's Laboratory for Laser Energetics used the same setup at the recent study to create super ionic ice, shown here in this artistic rendering. In that instance, the ice was not stable. Okie dokie. Scientists just squeezed a water droplet between two diamonds and blasted it to star-like temperatures with one of the world's most powerful lasers. The result was a new and mysterious phase of water. Bacon is really delighted right now, right?
Yeah.
Scientists just squeezed a water droplet between two diamonds and blasted it to star-like temperatures with one of the world's most powerful lasers. The result was a new and mysterious phase of water. Called superionic ice, these strange black water exist under the same pressures and temperatures as those at the center of the Earth, a fact that could soon help researchers investigate the secrets buried in the cores of other worlds. Previously, researchers used shock waves to create this weird ice for just 20 nanoseconds before it is dissolved. This new experiment marks the first time that scientists have created stable superionic ice that lasts long enough to be studied in detail. Researchers published their findings October 14th, this is 2 years ago, in the journal Nature Physics.
Yay, science!
Yay, science! Right.
I don't feel as excited about this as I think they're hoping. You've discovered a new way of manipulating water. By the blueprint of Bensalem, usually it tends to go into the direction of something horrifying and ugly. So, yeah.
Yeah, but certainly we've been watching it play out that way in so many of the.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have experiments of hybrid mice for you, pictures for you, right? It's like consider the horror.
Oh, the glowing ones, the glowing.
Are there glowing
the little
mice?
glowing mice. They're glowing mice. Yeah, yeah. I've seen glowing mice.
But you're just mixing them
Something
with
in the
light.
ear
What's the
that was
problem,
grown
right?
up.
It's natural.
Oh,
I think we should hybridize mice with jellyfish, and then they can have tentacles, right? And float. I don't know. You know?
Well, it's technically natural, isn't it?
Technically, it's
Technically.
material. Yes. So
Yes.
so this is, and it is fascinating. So Hans Atherizard said he was looking forward to this episode. I'm afraid we're not up to your level of science, Hans, the waves and fields. But now we want to have you on talk about light, right? Because Bacon has imagined himself to this edge of their merchants of light. How can you buy and sell light, for goodness sake? Think of it, the merchants of light. We make jokes about what we're doing as pirates, right, with a Y. And here we have Bacon in his, in Draco Chemicus, the city that we're imagining is kind of on the waters, like Dubai or Chicago or Ben Salem, right? So it's in this border world between land and sea, and the electric light is, it's a city that's with electric cold. If you think air conditioning, right? It's cold. It's artificially cold, just like Dubai with this city. And we're trying to show the effects on the people to be in this environment, right? We're very McLuhan-esque, as you all know. And so the McLuhan-esque problem is this environment has been building for centuries, and we're in it. And we can't even see that we're in it. So much so that we're surrounded by artificial everything. And the artificial, you don't get to pretend that the 19th century was somehow pure and different, or the 18th century, or the 17th century.
It's post-Bacon. We're living in the Bacon era. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there are Arabs that are now in the most fully realized version of this new Atlantis, that were born at a time when they still remember no science, pre-science Arabia. So we've got, this is why Arabs are so interesting. The population has a very rich memory of a world where there is no science. It was very magical, because Arabia was magical, but no air conditioning or any of this Atlantean Francis Bacon philosophy touching the area. The British arrived and completely recreated the entire Arabian Peninsula in the image of Francis Bacon's New Atlantis. So we've got Saudi Arabians now planning to live in something called the Line.
I saw that. Yes.
Have you seen that the horror show? I was looking at it. I was thinking, these people were Bedouins once. They were living on camels and running around raiding each other. They're going to live in the middle of nowhere. Fully air conditioned, you've got your fake trees, you've got your fake food, you've got everything, fake light, fake everything. It's there.
The new Atlantis.
The new Atlantis, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Casey says, it'll all end in tears when the upside down is opened up and a monster emerges. Well, we hope so, at least in our story. And we will show you the true horror of what the houses of Solomon and the modern research and institution have created. Yay, space. Yes.
Everything is now space.
Yes, we're using some of this right now to write the current scene that we're working, or the current moment of the scene that we're working on, where they're imagining the moonshots probably, and codes and gaslighting and CIA and oh my gosh. But to understand that one of our fables point is to help everyone recognize this dragon is incredibly appealing, and here we are. I'm now showing the Hotel Atlantis, right? We're in this fake world that the merchants of light have created. And we're part of it. Here we are talking on the light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are.
So there you go. We have now proved that we knew everything about the internet before everybody else because we were reading Bacon. Yay, medievalists. No.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what else gets plucked out of his fable. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
How much more science can you science?
Well, we didn't even talk about their marriage customs. So, I mean, the pools are one thing, right? But actually, there's a hope there. It's like they're celebrating fatherhood, right? It's like you get to have a special feast if you have 30 descendants. So maybe we should hope for that part of it, right? But there's very little. I mean, there's absolutely zero sense of. I mean, this is hilarious or horrible. In the fatherhood celebration, the mother sits behind a screen and doesn't get to participate in any of it. So I think we just surrogacy is straight in the possibility there. Yeah. So actually, yes, it's all horror.
Women are complicated and annoying and get in the way. Put
them behind a screen.
We'll science it. Put them behind a screen, and then we'll science our way through. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting, thing, seeing what else they do in the Arabian Peninsula.
Oh my.
Fake islands. Fake cities.
I'm sure you're all wondering what the answer to all this is. We'll tell you eventually. Actually, we've already told you. It's in the title of the book. And if you can answer that riddle, you know why there is one truth, and we need to live within that light, not the dragons.
Yeah.
Yep.
The light of the world.
We're not good at closing, right? Okay.
No, we suck
at closing. Good night, everyone. Live in the light that drives out all darkness, our Lord Jesus Christ. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.